Welcome everybody to another episode of the Will and Rock podcast. Let's get straight to it. The fight just finished. Tremendous card. Even the prelims were amazing. One of the best cards of the year.
Such a stacked card for all the injuries that happened on that card. And honestly, going into it, knowing that Derek Lewis was injured, knowing that Paige Van Zandt was not going to fight, I thought this card was not going to be as good as it was.
Right.
But we had so many great submissions, and even fights that ended in draw. Was just a phenomenal fight to watch all the rounds, you know. What's the first fight?
So the first one that actually went to draw was Evan Dunham versus Beneil Delarouche. Tremendous fight from the beginning. Tremendous battle. Unfortunately, they both came up short. Delarouche gave Evan Dunham a head kick while on the floor, so they took a point away from that. But I do believe that Beneil Delarouche would have won that fight if the point wasn't taken away from him.
The interesting part about it all is Delarouche. I didn't know him very well coming into this fight. I know you had talked very highly about him. I didn't know him very well, so I automatically went for Dunham, because I figured the experienced fighter was going to win, because I thought he was the more veteran fighter going into this fight. And in the beginning of the fight, it looked like Dunham had no chance with this guy. And as soon as that illegal kick happened, the illegal knee happened, Dunham found a way to come back from that.
Yeah.
And that pumped him up, and all of a sudden you started seeing him
go at it. Right, you would think the opposite because of an illegal knee. You don't know how much it really hurt him. So they gave him enough time. He did recuperate pretty quick, but we don't know if he was a little.
I did mention, I said, if Delarouche didn't throw that illegal kick, he would have won that fight.
Absolutely.
That 1 point that they took away from him was a big low blow for him. Low blow.
But so it was a draw. As you guys know from last week's podcast. We picked some fights. Yeah. This one happens that Rocky picked Dunham, I picked Beneil Delarouche, and since it was a draw, then it's only right that we both take a shot. So, cheers, my brother. Cheers, bro. But yeah, so that fight happened. The second fight was Farah Killingston versus Mara Romero. Mara Romero was
And this is the reason why this fight happened was because Paige Van Zandt got injured.
Correct.
And the fight between her and Jessica Ai got canceled.
Yeah, it got postponed. Yeah.
Got postponed too, and so that's the reason why we saw two fighters that I don't know much about. One was an Italian fighter, and the other one was a Brazilian fighter.
Yeah.
And they put on a phenomenal show.
And on one that ended up with a submission, the Italian girl Mara Romero took the victory with a rear naked choke.
And just to talk very quick, give you guys a quick glimpse of the fight. Towards the second round, when she took full mount, there was no turning back for her. Completely dominated the whole fight, and we're talking about the Italian girl, by the way. Completely dominated the whole fight. Found a way to get her back and hook up the rear naked choke, and it was so well done. And even the Brazilian did a phenomenal job of holding her ground. But the Italian was so relentless in a sport where the Brazilian usually wins in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
A surprising Italian has come out of nowhere and done it. And I will tell you, because of what she did in this fight, she's gonna move forward and get bigger names.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, 100%. And she definitely deserves it, and we'll look forward to seeing her fight next. But anyways, let's go directly to the next one. It was Fabricio Verdum versus Matt Harris, and again another injury. Derek Lewis got injured, couldn't get up from bed. He said that he had back spasm, so they replaced it. Within 3 hours, they got somebody named Matt Harris. This all happened today, as we speak. Right, it was happening, and Matt Harris came in, tried to put a good fight, but as we know, Fabricio Verdum, the legend that he is, completely dominated the whole fight, took him to the ground, and transitioned over to a beautiful armbar. A guy that big, that flexible, that smooth, it shows you there is levels to this. There's definitely levels.
And I like the fact that this just goes with all sports. When you always go, you know what, you're seeing a scrubby team play a really good team, And then when the good team wins, he goes, "Oh yeah, I expected it."
Yeah.
But you expect them to be blown out. You don't expect for the competitor to go in there and try to really beat you up a little bit, and then you end up winning. For Fabricio Verdum, from the beginning to the end, complete domination. Domination. Went back to his roots and was able to submit him. Phenomenal job on his part.
Again, I've never heard of Matt Harris. I hope that he it was crazy for him to even go all the way that quick and fight to Fabricio Verdum. But
I'm curious who they're going to give him next. He probably gets a little additional extra points for taking the fight last minute.
He definitely should. He for sure has. I mean,
you can't necessarily hold him to that either.
No, I do agree. But yeah, so next you fight. Had picked up Fabricio Verdum. I put Derek Lewis, but because Derek Lewis didn't fight, is only right there. Nobody takes shots on this side, right? So let's go to the next one. The next one is Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg.
Oh man!
Another fight that was just like the one prior, right? You have a guy like Demetrius Johnson, who's the true vet, has dominated his whole weight class, fighting a guy like Ray Borg, who's one of the new kids coming up. He's 25 years old, the youngest person in the card this week. And the youngest. And for him to come in, this is the way that you beat a guy like Ray Borg. I mean, a guy that doesn't have the experience that Demetrius Johnson has. One of the best finishes in UFC history, if you ask me.
One of the best submissions in UFC history.
Okay.
There's so many knockouts.
That's a good point, I guess. So, you're right. But grabbed his back as he threw him up in the sky, literally. He was able to grab him in an arm bar before they even hit the ground. It was truly amazing.
And then I have mentioned this before. I find this to be so funny that while Joe Rogan interviewed him after the post-fight, after he won the fight, he literally says, "Oh yeah, I've been training that." Like, okay, like that's something else another fighter does. That how insane is that? Like, you're at a level where you have time to train crazy finishes, you know?
But at the end of the day, you train these moves, I'm guessing in his part, because he saw something in his Ray Borg's previous fights for him to even be training something like that. That's ridiculous. Who trains that? Like, that sounds crazy.
No, but it shows you the level that he's in, and it shows you why we consider him to be the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC or in the world at this point. I really don't see nobody. Well, we know for a fact nobody in that weight class can't beat him. There's people who probably give him more of a competition, but it still wouldn't be a victory. So now the big question is, who's next for him? And we talked about this in the last podcast. You got TJ Dillashaw, who could totally walk in the same octagon as Demetrius because they were both high-level fighters. Does Demetrius go up weight and they do a catch weight? Does TJ able to drop down to his weight? So that's the real thing that I toss up. Because my biggest thing is, how much weight can Demetrius put on him before he becomes a little bit slower, less effective in his punches? So I'm curious to know what that's going to look out, what the UFC has planned to put Demetrius in the next fight. And it goes back to us feeling like he should have been in the main card, and I did this before. Imagine him finishing the main event to break a record in that form and fashion. He would have had the house on the feet, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. At the end of the day, he did win the champion. He holds the record for the most wins with the title in the UFC with 11 wins. He just beat Anderson Silva with 10. Tremendous accomplishment to put it on your record, you know. Congratulations to Demetrius Johnson. And well, anyways, we both have picked Demetrius Johnson. We both win. No shots for today. The last one was Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee. Now, this is another fight you and I picked, Tony Ferguson. And again, very similar to Demetrius Johnson and Fabricio Verdum. We're talking about Tony Ferguson, an experienced fighter. What does he do?
Yes and no. So yes and no. So before you make it look like Kevin Lee didn't belong there, or or it was completely outmatched. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
So that's why I don't want to compare.
But but it's the strategy. It goes back to strategy. It goes back to, you know, being a vet in that octagon. He waited. He literally punched his way through Kevin Lee so it hit the 4th round, and he started to see him diminish a little bit. Hits to the floor, submits him.
There was a little good back. There was like a small exchange that happened where Lee hit him, and you saw Kevin Lee. You saw Tony get a little fuzzy and start bouncing back. And as soon as Lee saw, like, he smelled blood, he got clipped by Tony. And then the same thing, Kevin went down a bit and was able to got up wobbly. But I would say great moments in the fight and great fighters. And man, like, Tony Ferguson looks like the truth, man.
No, he
for
definitely
somebody
is.
Who has a tons of lung. I would tell you that if he goes and he fights with someone like Conor McGregor, who's known to not stay up all 5 rounds in a main event, if it does go there, obviously, because the power that he possesses is pretty unreal. But that's a good fight. Think about it.
I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. Think about it. Kevin Lee did rock him and stumbled him a little bit. So now we do know that Kukui, you know, might go down with a really good punch, you know, because he has such a great chin, you know. And if he fights a guy like Conor McGregor, that's going to give him, like, you know, not only the real spotlight, but could he get over a guy like Conor McGregor? It's going to be a tough one.
No, yeah, I totally agree. It will totally be a great fight. And big shout outs to Kevin Lee, because I will tell you, any other fighter he would have beat, man.
Not to mention he had a staph infection.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy because once you have a staph infection, you start taking medication and antibiotics, and it drains you. It drains you as a fighter. You can just imagine a person that's doing that, you know, it's going to be hard for him to train because he's going to get tired, and it kind of showed. He got a little tired in the 4th round, but
I don't think he did enough to, like, start getting tired that fast.
No.
And someone like Kevin Lee, who's age 25, who still has a lot of lungs behind him, I'm curious if that took a huge effect in this fight.
I would like to think so. I would definitely like to think so.
Yeah, so what's next for Kevin Ferguson? Tony Ferguson. What's next for Tony Ferguson? There's, honestly, I would like to see him fight Conor.
Is Conor or Khabib at this point? I mean, I don't know if Khabib is going to be able to even make the weight. I don't even know if he's planning on coming back. But with that being said, the real person to put in there is Conor McGregor. He's going to make he's going to make weight. He's going to be there, and
that's his weight class.
It's a perfect way to start off the year. You know, if I was Conor McGregor, I will take 2 fights next year, the beginning and the end. You know, you might as well
make 2 money out of that.
Yep. But that's a wrap. Yeah, so we both picked Ferguson, so we were not able to take shots today. But
man, this really worked out in our favor.
Yeah, it really did. Just one shot. It was one shot. Anyways, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Will and Rock Podcast, and also on YouTube. Please subscribe, comment. Say what you want to say.
And shout out to the person who left the comment, and we appreciate that. Yeah. We really appreciate all the love and support we've been receiving on the streets as well from some of our friends. So thanks a lot, guys, and like we said, subscribe. Peace.
Thank you.